Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Diary of a Professional. It is Lou here.
Ashley.
Hi, guys. And we have a special guest, Dewan Carpenter, aka Dr. D. We will get into all of that. But of course, as usual, we will start with our, moment of gratitude.
Okay.
I think
I'll start. Yes.
Go ahead and start, girl.
I know. I tend to throw it to you, but I'll start. Yes. I guess I am just grateful for just taking some time off and enjoying family during this holiday season. Because when I got back to work, man, my panel, I was definitely back to work. My panel was like, nope, you've been gone for a few days, so you got to see us. So I was just grateful for those few days off, and hopefully I'll close those charts at some point. That's usually my issue.
Right. You'll be surprised how many sicknesses and feelings people put off just in the name of turkey and a holiday, and they're ready to clock in come Monday and give you all of their problems.
Yeah, Mondays are usually those days where everything's fine, and then they hold everything off to those Monday visits. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, I'm back to it. But I was happy to enjoy those few days off. So yeah.
Good. I am thankful, for those things that those things in America. America is what it is, but it has some advantages. I am thankful for things like car insurance, because my ass had a whole flat tire and, very inconvenient. It was actually my first one ever. And the fact that I was able to just call up my, car insurance, they sent roadside assistance right away. That doesn't come out of my pocket. I have tire coverage, so I already called up my car dealership, and that's covered, and they about to give me a new tire, and I don't have to think about anything else, or calling ooh, who do I know, or who can come pick me up, and who do I really like that, who got me like that. I have to think of all that stuff. Thankfully I do have people, but I didn't have to inconvenience anybody, and it was swift and prompt, and first world amenities aren't that bad. So I am thankful.
And that's good, because sometimes roadside assistance, you can be sitting in that car forever. You're like, oh my goodness, when is somebody gonna come? I need assistance.
Girl, I was on my way to work. I wanted them to take as long as they needed to. Okay.
Oh boy.
So Dr. D, you want to tell us what your moment of gratitude is?
Yeah, so I can say I'm actually grateful for the time off as well. I was reflecting this time last year, I was stressed out, burnt out, it was Thanksgiving, but I was in a mood because I had to work, and then had people the first time hosting at my house. And this year I was able to say, I'm not working the holiday the whole week, and I'm going to just enjoy. And, family did most of the cooking. I was in charge of drinks. So, I'm just grateful for some downtime and to be in a space where I can even enjoy it.
That is so good.
I love that. And I love how the year after, it's complete opposite, where you're just able to relax and really enjoy your Thanksgiving. That's
You look rested, so I guess you really did enjoy it.
Well, I did enjoy it. We were traveling, so that part, if you had caught me yesterday.
Different story.
Yeah, today on Monday, I'm like, oh wait, it is Monday. Okay, let me get my life together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I got the rest. The last, yeah.
And then speaking of that, in getting our life together, and I guess a big part of your life is family, and being a twin mom like myself.
Yes, girl, twin mom.
we'll get all into it. And obviously everyone's experience is different. So I know that, or we'll let the audience know that you have a podcast called Twin Mom Thriving.
That's right.
And we want to know all about it, how you got into it. Like, please introduce yourself.
Yeah. So I am a twin mom. I'm a mom of 4. So my twins were my last ones. Major surprise. I thought I was done. And, I'm a physician, and the podcast Twin Moms Thriving actually was never anything that I ever saw myself doing. Mm-hmm. It was one of those things that I had heard people say different things like, oh, have you ever thought about like talking about this? Or, maybe you should like, have a show or, whatever. And I'm like, for what? And even though you probably can't tell, I like to be behind the scenes. So I tend to be like the person, I will get you all together. I'll pull it together. You don't have to give me credit. Don't say nothing about me. Don't ask me to speak. I'm good. The fact that it turned out beautiful, I'm good with that. And so that was the other thing. Like I actually don't like to hear my voice. At least I didn't. Yeah. So, even if I left a message to somebody, especially back in the day where you could like replay it before you sent it.
Yeah.
I would never listen to it. I'd be like, whatever I said is what I said. And so now having a podcast, and not just having a podcast that people actually listen to every week. It's like, what? But I'll tell you, the podcast came about, first of all, just because I knew, one, as a physician, I knew that there was more to me than being a physician, and I wanted to do more. And the things that I had experienced in my life were not just for me to hold on to. And so I actually got a coach, and, I was kind of telling the coach my vision, like, I kind of want to do something with twin moms because I had this struggle and I feel like nobody understood and nobody was there to help me. And she's like, yeah, do it. Like, let's talk about this. So the initial kind of getting my story out was the podcast. And the whole premise of the podcast is that as twin moms, a lot of times, and it's obviously not just twin moms, but we have a little bit, extra. Yeah. And, like we're trying to still do it all, the society kind of points to us that we should have this work-life balance. Well, first of all, I got 2 kids and this one of me. We already starting out without balance, right?
Yeah.
So now you want me, I'm supposed to have this work-life balance, and I've been trying to achieve this and it's not working. So is it me or is it the system? And so Twin Moms Thriving came about because I really wanted to be a catalyst for twin moms to not just survive, I made it through today. I don't want us to just survive. I want us to actually thrive and be like, yeah, girl, we got this going on. And also to create a community, because I didn't have that when I first found out about the twins. Mm-hmm. And, then trying to like re-enter the workforce as a twin mom, breastfeeding, tandem feeding, like where is the book for that? So
I didn't write it yet.
Well, maybe that's it. I didn't write it yet, but I was struggling. And so I said, at least my struggle won't be in vain if I'm sharing, because the more I talked about it, the more other moms were like, oh yeah, that's me. And I'm like, I've seen you every day, or I've seen you every week. You haven't said nothing about this until I mentioned it. And now it's like, oh yeah, me too, girl. And I was like, oh, okay. So we just don't talk about it. We struggling, you know, in silence. And I just wanted to put an end to that. So Twin Moms Thriving is out there.
I love that. I mean, listen, I can relate on so many different levels. I think in this day and age, though, with like our generation, like we're realizing that we don't have to fake it till we make it. Right. And I think there's, sometimes there's obviously a lot of bravery and courage and like being maybe that first one. Like people might be thinking it, but like to have the courage to say it, and then it makes it comfortable for everyone else to be like, girl, that is my struggle too. And that you can feel like, yes, you are not alone. I think is a wonderful space, you know, for women to have and like to see what it's like, because baby, when their twin powers activate.
Right. Yes.
Yes, I understand. So how old are your twins? What kind of twins do you have?
So I have fraternal girls, and they are 4.5, going on 24 and a half. They know it all. You can't tell them nothing. Yes.
And how old are your other ones?
And then, so I have a 15-year-old girl and an 11-year-old boy.
Oh, so that was really like not in like.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Like legit, we were having conversations. Like, we got a girl, we got a boy. Is one of you and one of me? I think we're good.
Right.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah. And when I found out that we were pregnant, like I was like mad. Like, really? And it took me literally up until I went to the first doctor's appointment to like wrap my mind around like, okay, I'm accepting that there's going to be another baby.
You plan for one.
I planned for one. And then we're on the table and, you know, I was super sick, way sicker than with my other two kids. You know, exhausted, just all of the symptoms I had. And my mom happened to be with me, and she was like, well, can you just make sure that there's only one, like kind of joking. And actually it was the nurse practitioner that was scanning me, and she was like, well, I'm checking. And I'm like, no, that's not the usual response. Yes. Usually it's, oh yes, there's only one, of course, like right here. No, that's not what she said. And she was like, oh yeah, well, there's one and there's two. And I'm like on the table sobbing, like ugly cry, all of it. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And the only thing my mom could do was just pat me. She was just like, it's okay. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not okay. So, yes. And my husband wasn't even there because we didn't think it was a big deal. It's like, third pregnancy. Yeah, you know, you've been there, done that. Yeah.
I remember what that visit was like because I was not planning. First of all, when I first took the test and I was like, this is inconclusive. I don't know if I'm really pregnant. Let me blood test the real thing to see what's really happening. And then you're pregnant. And they call her like, oh yeah, congratulations. And she's like, is it a congratulations? And I'm like, I don't know. But those are the kind of things, like you said, you were upset. And I feel like, a lot of times we're supposed to be happy, like this is a blessing, which they are, which they can be, but it is a shift like no other, especially when it's not planned. So no, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. And I think women need to be comfortable saying, like, it's not that I don't love the child and I don't love, our children or accept it, but in that time and space, I was not ready. I didn't want it. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I had guilt around that. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of guilt because I had friends, like 3 friends around the same time that were like desperately trying to get pregnant. And, or had a miscarriage recently and things like that. And I'm like, I have 2 that I wasn't expecting, that I wasn't trying for, and I'm upset. And here is somebody over here is like doing everything they can, to have just one baby. Like there was a lot of guilt around that. And, I think I totally agree with you that as women, depending on our situations, it may be a happy thing. It may not be. That doesn't change, the love for the kids.
Right.
But all of that kind of like mental space that you have to like work through, it's a lot, and it's okay wherever you are. And I think we do need to like normalize that instead of putting our own like, yeah, you should. I hate that.
Honestly, it is. Oh man, you're bringing back all the memory. But did you have something to say, Ashley? I'm sorry. I felt like I was cutting you off.
No, I wanted to like ask now, like, how do you, both of you guys actually, attempt to have that balance or try to have a balance with having twins? What are your strategies, honestly?
I will say it sometimes is a day by day situation and a conversation I have to have with myself to say, like, don't feel guilty, because I can't, like, let me tell you, the other day, getting the kids ready for school, I had gotten like minimal sleep. I was up with them, tossing, turning, whatever. And I might have got 3 hours of sleep. And I'm getting ready, and they're taking their time, putting their shoes on, this and that. Mine are 9. And I'm just like, let's go. Like, let's do what we have to do. And my son looks at me and he's like, you cranky? And like, I had to check myself because, me not getting sleep or whatever shouldn't have to be on them. And I have to give myself grace and realizing, like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I need a moment for myself, or, if delegating, like we do it in nursing and it's come second nature. But if we're able to do it, even as a parent, like it'll save you some sanity every once in a while. So I think it's like literally a daily conversation, multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I actually kind of just don't subscribe to the balance anymore. Shameless plug. Actually, one of my podcast episodes is Work-Life Balance is Trash. Because I think in my mind, balance means that everything lines up so nicely. You got work, you got life, and they just play so nicely together. And that's not really what happens. What happens is some days I'm work heavy. And so my life doesn't get quite as much attention as I would maybe like it to. Or vice versa. The kids are sick, or, we got some stuff going on at home. And so life gets a lot and work doesn't. So definitely the day-to-day is something that I subscribe to as well. That, you know what, I'm just kind of going to do whatever needs to be done today. But I'm going to put myself at the top of the list. No matter what happens, that way I'm not going to be like falling apart. Because years before, that was what I did. I was like, oh, let me make sure everybody else is okay. Make sure this is done. Make sure that is done. And then I was never in that process. So when stuff started getting crazy and hectic, I was like falling apart and, just not doing a great job of anything. And I had to realize that like, okay, the balance is take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, and then you can handle everything else and everybody else.
Right. I feel that. So like for me, my twins were, they're my first kids and everything like that. And you had the opportunity to, let's say, bond with your other two first, or having experience of being a parent. Like, what do you think was like, besides them being like two of them, what did you like take with you from your previous, pregnancies, or what did you learn? What was so vastly different that you were like, oh, I thought I was sort of prepared, but I'm really not?
Yeah, so I think certainly with the first, you feel like you got to read all the books and do all the things and, like just everything there is to know about a baby you have to have and be read up on. I think being used to taking care of one specific person that has their own personality certainly is like, okay, once I kind of get used to how this baby acts and what they respond to, then I'm good. But with the twins, it's like a juggling act. You're like trying to respond to them as individuals, but then also they play off of each other. So then you have that like dynamic duo going on, and they're like teaming up against you. I mean, having had kids beforehand, I would say like I honestly having twins going into it, like before they were born, thought, oh, okay, once I get through the pregnancy, I'm good. That's what I was worried about. I was worried about the pregnancy.
Mm.
And, you know, I don't care about the age thing. You know, they labeled me elderly. Elderly pregnancy. I hate that. So I was older when I had them. And, you know, I'm like, the only thing I could think of was like, this is a high risk pregnancy. I'm going to be on bed rest. They're going to be in the NICU. Like those were the things that I was most concerned about. With the other two, I wasn't really concerned about those things. Yeah. You know, it was like, okay, long as I like take care of myself and, you know, follow what the doctor says, I should be good. And, you know, that whole sleep when the baby sleeps, that doesn't work with twins. I'm sorry. I don't care. People still say that. I see it in all these twin mom groups. Oh, sleeping that bull crap. That, that does not work with twins at all. But maybe it's just mine. So those were some of the major differences. Like, okay, all of this stuff I thought I knew about kids and pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, throw that out.
Yeah, I hear that.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I'm curious about just even those like newborn to like 6 month stage for twins, like they always encourage feed them at the same time. You know, when they sleep, you sleep. And I'm just like, is that really possible to really get both of these kids? This is not like the NICU where it's such a controlled environment, you know, where they have their feedings at maybe 10, 1, 3, 7, or whichever. Like at home, it must be completely different. I'm just wondering, even just like breastfeeding, bottle feeding, you know, tandem feeding, like you were mentioning. I'm just wondering, how was your breastfeeding, like, or bottle feeding experience as well with twins? Was it smooth? Is it as they claimed it was? Like you were mentioning, like, oh no, you can't sleep when, you know, sleeping when I'm sleeping or they're sleeping. It doesn't work that way. So I'm just curious too as well.
Oh, mine in the beginning was rough. The first month, again, I thought I was actually doing stuff for me and I wasn't. I was so focused on them and making sure that I was kind of doing all the right things. It actually sent me to the hospital exactly a month after they were born because I wasn't really eating well. I wasn't drinking. And, you know, just breastfeeding by itself, you have to stay hydrated. So then I was, you know, breastfeeding too. That was a nightmare. So I definitely learned the hard way. And I think I wasn't 100% like, oh, I have to breastfeed. I was like, I'm going to give it my best shot. And early on, actually one of my twins, baby B, was a little bit lower weight. And so they wanted us to supplement for like the first week. And then after that, she was solely breastfed. But I think the tandem feeding worked for me because I was like, we're going to do this one time and then have a break, because I had read about people that would just let them feed on their own schedule. And they were literally like feeding babies constantly because one would eat when one was done. Then the next one's ready to eat. And I was like, I can't do that. So early on, it was definitely just tandem feeding, which surprisingly, I did get the hang of relatively quickly. And that may also just have been from breastfeeding my other kids. At least I kind of knew, you know, what to expect going into it. I will say if I could say I made a mistake, it was not pumping and doing bottle at home sometimes. because once they got to daycare, they would take the bottle somewhat, but as soon as they got home, they weren't touching the bottle. Mm-hmm. It was all me. And I was like,
yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah. But I mean, I breastfed them like literally until they were 1.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yeah, till they were 1. And after that, I was like, I can't. I love y'all. And again, for the most part, they were using it for comfort. They were eating everything else, that they could eat. They didn't need breast milk at that point.
See, my situation was a little different because, like, that was my first time breastfeeding. My daughter, from the first time that she was in the nursery, she took down her 2 ounces without a problem, like sopping it up, everything. My son, he was a little slower, and he probably had reflux because literally it could be 30 minutes after feeding, he's projectile. You know what I mean? And so I tried to give him more breast. My daughter was as impatient as she is now. If it wasn't coming fast enough, like, what are you doing? And I quickly had to let go of the idea that, breastfeeding exclusively was going to be my situation. And one breast gave amazing, and the other one, it was harder to latch on. So it did become, a one-time situation, and trying to pump and not realizing how much fluid I needed to drink and everything. And I also got mastitis, and that was painful. Like, oh my gosh. And then having to go on antibiotics, and then ending up having to stop breastfeeding around like 3 months. I was like, listen, I did what I could, but like my body's like, no, and you have to listen to it, But thankfully, even at a young age, kids are adaptable. And I would either I would feed my daughter because I know she would feed fast and she wouldn't have any issues. And with my son, I had to take time and try to pace him and go slower so that hopefully he digests better. Or, there was a time where he realized who his sister was. And by 4 months, if you propped him, he was holding his bottle because he's like, listen, I know she deserves and it requires all this attention, and I'm going to just fall back. I'm going to handle myself. So in ways when they can team up on you, yes. But sometimes it's like they know, even if one is acting up, usually the other one isn't, because if it was both of them every time, all the time, I'd have more grays than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Which is another fascinating thing about twins, the support that they give each other. Yeah. That's just nobody teaches them that. They know what to do, when to do it. That to me is amazing.
Yeah. There's definitely a connection. I want to know, okay, so I was reading somewhere how even as a mother or a parent, your children never get the same version of you, right? So let's say I know your eldest got a different version of you than your 11-year-old versus your twins. But even in having 2 of the same at the same time, they're still getting different sides of you and how you parent them. And how do you think they differ?
That's a good question. Mm-hmm. I think I really think the different versions actually play to their benefit, because they're so different and need different things. So, I mean, at one point, so my 15-year-old was my med school baby. And I always I'm in med school, I'm, grinding. I feel like we were the poorest that we ever were, when we were in med school and trying to figure stuff out, that she kind of maybe missed out on certain things, even though I see that now she didn't. But she, as a baby, was not very needy, but I feel like now as a teen is one that needs more supervision than I would have thought she would have needed. Whereas my twins, they literally are like night and day. They're fraternal, and like one likes pink, the other likes purple. Like there's very few times that they like the same things. And personality wise, I have one that is like always on 10. It doesn't matter what's going on. She's bouncing off the wall. She's moving. She's talking. She's, rambunctious. And then I have another one who's kind of like laid back. She kind of watches. She's a little more shy, takes her time. And so I think the different versions that they get happen to be like what they need at that particular time and how they need, like all of your kids are different. You're going to have to parent them differently. And I just feel like the twins are no different, even though they were born the same time, they got the same DNA, even though it's not identical, right, that they still have their own like individual, like personalities and kind of things about them that you have to kind of cater to.
Yes. And also honor their individuality, because I'm sure, especially with both of them being girls, a lot of people, do they look alike?
They don't.
Okay.
They don't look alike. I mean, like literally one's light skin and one's brown skin.
Okay. People really can't tell unless, you tell them. But like in honoring that, they are two definitely different individuals. And I think that's why, I don't know how you do it, but I make sure that they are not in the same class, like at all, not an option, because I know one's personality is more dominant than the other, and they kind of fall into those roles, if you will, when they're out in the world. And, I don't want one to feel like they can't speak up, or, one feels like I have someone I can boss and dominate the girl. You know what I mean? And showing them like, they are different people. They should always be like each other's best friends and have each other's back. But like, I think getting them to realize I cannot parent them the same and it does not equal across the board is like my latest battle, because they require different things. They, some strengths are one and one has other weaknesses, and it's not dependent on each other is what it is. Like you just are who you are. It's not reflective of your relationship with your twin. And I feel like that is the biggest battle.
Yeah. So right now they're in pre-K and there's only one class, but they actually, it stresses them out to be apart from each other. So we have had like, one was sick, the other wasn't. And it's like, okay, well, she can't go to school, and then they don't want to go by themselves separately. But once they get there, they do great. They think about the other one. And, we use those moments to say like, y'all are twins, but you don't always have to be together. You don't always have to be, do the same stuff. It's okay for y'all to have different friends and different stuff that y'all like to do. But right now, they're stressed when they're not together. So, for kindergarten, we're thinking probably keeping them together and talking to them about when they're like ready to kind of start veering off, which I know that it's going to happen because I can see it even just, when I go pick them up sometimes before they can see me, they might be out on the playground and one's playing on the other side with a group of friends, one's playing on the other side with another group of friends. And so I know that is coming. But I love that they will play separately and then they play together. Yes. Yeah. And now that was one thing that I did read about before having twins. Like adult twins said that they hated, like, we had the same birthday, so we got to share like the cake and we got to share the party and things like that. And so I've been conscious about that with regards to, I mean, right now they have a group party, but like their birthday's coming up in March. And I was like, so what are you thinking about for your birthday? I don't know. One said we're doing Pony Pony, aka My Little Pony. Yes. And the other one was like, I like Toy Story. And so it's funny because one twin said, no, we have to agree. on what we're going to do. And I'm like, okay, I have said that before, like when it comes to them watching a show.
Yes.
And I said, well, no, for the party, it's okay if she wants one thing and you want something else. We can split it. We can get cupcakes, or we could even do a cake, half and half. I don't really care.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't all have to be the same. You know,
Right.
we just have to make sure that we can work it out and share and get along. That's the important thing.
Right.
So they're like, what? We can have different. Yes, you can have different stuff.
You know what? Yes. The difference between codependency and being able to compromise is, it can be a fine line. I agree. I mean, maybe it's easier for me because like one is a boy, one is a girl. So it's like, I can't necessarily expect them to want the same thing, but I'm sure in like passively it would be easy. Oh, they're two girls, same thing. But it's not.
Yeah.
Oof. No. Yeah. One likes chocolate, one likes vanilla. So I already know, like, and they don't budge on that.
Yeah, we got the same.
Yes. I love that.
Love it. So thank you for joining us today. Please let the people know where they can find you for your podcast. And if they ever need advice, where can they find you, Dr. D?
Absolutely. So I am on all social media platforms as Twin Mom Doctor, and it's doctor is spelled out DOCTOR. I will tell you the only place that I am not is on Twitter.
All right.
But you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. Definitely look me up. I would love to hear from you. And certainly, I also have a coaching program for twin moms, specifically professional twin moms who are feeling stuck in their careers and like they just kind of left their dreams when they had twins. So, you know, that's something that is really a passion of mine, that you can be a mom, you can still be a professional woman and want to aspire in your career. So also hit me up if that is something that you want to talk more about.
I love that. That's like, because we can always tell our stories and everyone's experience is different, but to like guide someone and help them navigate as they're in it is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish somebody was doing that for me. So that's why I got to reach back and do it for somebody else.
God bless you. I don't know where you find the time, but you make it work.
You know what? That's what I teach people, how to make it work with your the time. You create the time. So, yeah. Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on. This was so great. I mean, you know, we're in a season of gratitude, but definitely anytime I have the opportunity to, you know, talk with other professionals, you know, I'm all for it.
And thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And honey, we gonna make it.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know any experiences you have. If any of you guys have twins yourselves. Yes, till next time, everyone.
Yes, take care.